The Dark Knight, the Caped Crusader, Bruce Wayne. No matter what you call him, you cannot deny the influence Batman has on the movies. Superman helped usher in realistic superheroes on the big screen, and Batman helped define the modern-day genre, which generates billions of dollars every year. But with such a big legacy and fan base comes the scrutiny of fans to nitpick every little detail, right down to the cape and batarangs. So what makes the perfect Batman? Why have some Batmen succeeded and made film history, while others have been laughed at and ridiculed? From the early days with Adam West to more recent attempts at launching the DCEU, let's break down how to make a successful Batman, what resonates with fans, and why some Batman incarnations should have never made it to the big screen. Batman wasn't just a fictional character written for the big screen. Like many cinematic superheroes, Batman's source material was pulled from the pages of DC Comics. And the original comic books are often the authority for how the big screen incarnation should look. Debuting in Detective Comics in 1939, Batman proved to be so popular he quickly got his own solo series, and the Batman mythos was quickly developed. His sidekick Robin was introduced, the Joker became one of his greatest adversaries, and other classic characters like Alfred and Catwoman took center stage. Much of the same elements which debuted in the first few years of the Batman in the comics has become the standard and blueprint for cinematic visions. And it didn't take long for the Caped Crusader to make it to the big screen. Batman has had a major influence on movies over the years, but the Gotham City Protector has even impacted the comic books he was based off of. Just take a look at the very first incarnation of Batman and the 1943 self-titled serial shorts, which played before feature-length movies all over the United States. Despite coming off as a World War II propaganda film, the shorts helped cement some of the most iconic parts about Batman. They introduced his Batcave, the thin mustache look of Bruce Wayne's butler Alfred, and the Wayne Manor's many hidden secrets, including the grandfather clock tunnel. These elements would transition into the comics and become some key elements when making Batman movies in the future. Even though Batman made his big screen debut in 1943 and followed it up with a series of Batman and Robin shorts in 1949, it would take many years and decades before he was a mainstay in cinemas. The first attempt was a feature-length adaptation of the campy Batman TV show in 1966. Adam West's take on Batman is a far cry from the Dark Knight we know today, but at the time, this was the Batman fans knew. He fit in with the television atmosphere at the time. The bold colors, over-the-top action, and cheesy comedy helped make up for the lack of great special effects or spectacular action sequences. Even today, fans accept this version of Batman for what it is, a time capsule of nostalgia and simpler times before superhero films were taken more seriously. And as a plus, the costume was pretty similar to the comics. The Superman collection of films brought a more serious tone and bigger budget to the movies when they were released in the 1970s. Seeing Superman fly, use his powers, and have epic fight scenes only made fans want to see Batman on the big screen even more. And boy, were they treated. Starting with 1989's Batman, we got Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, and a whole lot of Batman in the DCEU. With more than a handful of stars playing the role and a lot of film content to break down, the great Batman debate started even before Michael Keaton handed off his cape to Val Kilmer. But what makes a great Batman? Well, you have to start with the hero himself. Batman and Bruce Wayne are almost like two different characters. When Tony Stark is in the Iron Man suit, he's still Tony Stark. Captain America barely tries to hide his Steve Rogers. And even Clark Kent is pretty much the same as Superman, with just a pair of glasses added to the mix. Bruce Wayne takes the extra effort to separate his playboy persona from his dark and mysterious Gotham City vigilante. This takes an actor's performance to a whole other level, and filled with layers. When they're playing Bruce Wayne in the public eye, they're a happy, slightly egotistical ladies' man. At home, they're tortured by their parents' death, other tragedies after taking on the mantle of the Caped Crusader, and the crime which plagues Gotham City. And then as Batman, the ruthless protector who lives to serve justice, but doesn't believe in killing as part of their effort to take down crime and clean up the streets. Michael Keaton was the first one to take on the role. With a larger-than-life manner, the clothes, lifestyle, and wooing of characters like Vicky Vale, Keaton was able to transition well from Bruce Wayne to Batman. Despite Despite being mostly a comedic actor before 1989's Batman, Keaton was able to make the role believable, and his transformation to the newly designed black Batman suit seemed effortless. It was more of the same when Keaton signed on for Batman Returns. Batman Returns was a little more over the top and had more of a quirky offbeat tone than the first film, but Keaton's role as both Batman and Bruce Wayne helped keep the film grounded. When Tim Burton left the Batman franchise, Keaton jumped ship as well, and the role of Batman was left for the taking when Batman Forever went into pre-production. The spot went to Val Kilmer, another actor who started out in the comedy genre but often dipped his toes into dramatic acting as well. Kilmer brought a lot of seriousness to the role, but something about his performance lacked in the way Keaton was able to separate Batman and Bruce Wayne. Kilmer's performance was on the same scale, whether he was in or out of the suit. Due to other projects at the time, Kilmer's role as Batman was a one-and-done situation, as a sequel to Batman Forever was pretty much rushed into production. Taking the Bruce Wayne role this time around was George Clooney. There's no denying George Clooney's skills as an actor. He's won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in the movie Syriana, brought the drama on the medical show ER, and has starred in countless other movies with critical acclaim. But in the end, he will go down as one of the worst actors to portray Batman on the big screen. Where Michael Keaton delivered a serious Batman with a dark edge, we see George Clooney in one of the worst Batman outfits, and spends a lot of his time either whining or bickering with Robin while in the Batsuit. Even though Clooney is considered one of the worst actors to portray Batman, he is an example of a great actor in a bad situation. If Clooney was hired for one of Tim Burton's Batman movies, his portrayal and actions would be under a very different spotlight. Clooney proves that making the perfect Batman includes a lot more than just the character himself. The production, script, and villains all impact the way Batman is portrayed on the screen. As much as an actor brings their own style and flair to the role, so does the director who joins the project. This is why it's hard to compare George Clooney and Michael Keaton at face value. When picking the better Batman over the two, you're really picking the better movie. After Tim Burton left the Batman franchise, director Joel Schumacher took over, and the tone of the movies changed dramatically. The dark tones and color palettes of Batman and Batman Returns were replaced with bright and vibrant colors, as seen in Batman Forever's Riddler and Two-Face. The movies came off as a live-action cartoon more than anything else, especially in Batman and Robin. The script comparison between Batman and Robin is like night and day. Batman had a gritty feel to it, and while it was filled with plenty of fun moments, Batman and Robin was chock full of cheesy puns, corny lines, and a characterization of Bruce Wayne who felt like a shell of the character movie fans had come to know. After Clooney's role as Batman, the franchise was set aside for a little while and given some time to hit the reset button. In the late 90s, it felt like Michael Keaton would go down as the greatest Batman of all time. And then the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy came along. This was the Batman fans have been waiting to see on the screen. A mix of modern technology, advancements in film, smart writing, and a huge script all helped lead to the development and release of Batman Begins. Casting a new Batman for Batman Begins came with a lot of options. There were all sorts of rumors swirling around, and the casting announcement for an iconic role like Batman is almost just as big as the movie announcement. Before ultimately deciding on Christian Bale, other actors including Jake Gyllenhaal, Joshua Jackson, and Cillian Murphy were considered for the role. On paper, Bale was the best choice. On screen, it was extremely clear why. Bale was truly able to separate the worlds of Batman and Bruce Wayne from each other. In an instant, you could tell whether he was the charismatic billionaire, the tortured boy who grieved for his parents, or the masked hero looking to bring justice. Bale also had the benefit of starring in a prequel film. For almost half of the movie, Batman isn't established yet. Bale adds more credibility to the role because we watch him transform into Batman. His actions, motives, and drive is all shown to us on screen. Nothing is assumed. And even for sequels like The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises, we already know the journey he's been on to earn his cape. After the Dark Knight trilogy, the groundwork was laid for an epic superhero film, and film studios hit the ground running. Standalone films or trilogies were pushed aside for broader and connected universes. As the Marvel Cinematic Universe rose, so did the DCEU, and the need for a whole new Batman. Before a second of footage was even filmed, controversy arose when Ben Affleck was cast as an older Caped Crusader in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Dubbed as Batfleck, there may have been a lot of backlash against Affleck's casting, but he fit into the role of Batman and a weathered Bruce Wayne fairly well. Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne was almost the polar opposite of Christian Bale's, one who not only suffered the death of his parents, but the death of Robin, the long suffering of Gotham City, and the realistic notion that his role as the Batman could not last forever. Crafting the perfect Batman goes well beyond just the role of the actor, and one of these elements is the costume. Tim Burton's Batman ventured away from the blue and gray color scheme of the comics, and went for a completely black look for the costume with splashes of yellow built into the belt and chest logo. In live action and on film, it worked, especially with the gothic vision Burton brought to the table. The costume pretty much remained the same for Batman Returns, but went under some major changes for both Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Batman Forever toned down the yellow highlights, and subtly introduced the use of faux nipples on the armor. In the movie, the Riddler destroys all of the Batsuits, leading to the debut of the Sonar Batsuit, a flashy, luminous gray suit with a differently sculpted mask. Adding a suit change is an exciting way to show Batman in a different form, but things were taken to a whole other level in Batman and Robin, as the company seemingly created more suits just for the sake of selling toys. The Batsuit in Batman and Robin caused the hero to lose some credibility. He's supposed to be a sleuth in the darkness, not a carnival mascot. The nipples protrude out even further than Val Kilmer's suit did, and the suit-plated groin pieces in the alternate ice armor designs are laughable. If Michael Keaton was forced into any of these Batsuits, his credibility as Batman would definitely be questioned. The black and dark tones of Tim Burton's Batman definitely impacted the legacy of the character on the big screen. It's the design people have come to expect, and seemingly all of the costumes which followed were inspired by that design. In Batman Begins, the Batsuit was an all-black design with a gold belt and a bat emblem which blends into the whole suit color, rather than standing out on its own. The mask and other elements seem to have the same latex look from the 1989 film, adding some authentic history to the design. The Dark Knight took the suit upgrade even further, adding a slimmer design and more armored pieces to help protect Batman while in combat. With a dark and gritty feel of the Christopher Nolan trilogy, the combat armor helped make Batman feel like a real person and hero in this version of Gotham. In a majority of the films, they have not gone wrong with the iconic suit, and more of the same appeared when Batman debuted in the DCEU. Even with the bloated armor suit or nightmare suit, the DCEU Batman feels lifted straight from the pages of the comics, and doesn't take away from the credibility of the costume. And when speaking of costume designs, you can't ignore the use of Batman in animation. Batman has had a long place in the world of animation. In creating a perfectly animated Batman, a voice actor is important, but even more important is the design of the character. One of the more iconic designs come from Batman the Animated Series. This design featured classic elements like the gray base, all-white eyes, and a yellow utility belt. That design continued on in full-length animated productions like Mask of the Phantasm and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero. Some of the more criticized Batsuits include ones for Batman Brave and the Bold and the Batman, but that is based more upon animation style than the costume itself. Creating a Batman cartoon needs to have the feel of a Batman comic book coming to life. In the Batman vs. Dracula, the style is very anime-styled, and almost doesn't feel like a true Batman tale. On the other hand, there's Batman Ninja, another anime-inspired Batman who still looks and feels authentic to the character. Over the years, several voices have helped bring these animated Batmen to life. Among the top voices include Kevin Conroy, Jason O'Mara, and Troy Baker. Each voice actor is able to separate the tones of the character and help us connect to the animated character with small nuances, and a nice shift between the masked and unmasked Bruce Wayne. Other voice actors like Reno Romano, Diedrich Bader, and Billy Baldwin just didn't have the authentic touch and feel we've come to know Batman for. And then there's Will Arnett. The Lego Movie introduced a Lego version of Batman, with a whole new take on the character. The Lego Batman comes off as a semi-parody with his own dark theme songs. But the nature of the Lego films allowed fans to accept this version of Batman, and even embrace him for his own solo Lego Batman movie.
Every man for himself.
The reception of the Lego Batman showcased how much leeway the world of animation has when it comes to accepting the Dark Knight. In live-action cinema, it's a whole different ballgame, as the target audience is typically older, the budgets are larger, and people expect their real-life superheroes to feel real. And even though it's an animated movie, the Lego Batman movie showcased that there wouldn't be a Batman without a Joker. They need each other to thrive, and this sentiment is reflected in the live-action movies as well. You cannot explore the world of a perfect Batman without having the villains to complement him, present him with conflict, and reflect some of his own inner demons. And the ideal Batman is often paired with the psychotic Joker. The Clown Prince has been around since the beginning, and the Dark Knight's arch nemesis has raised the stakes so much we end up rooting for Batman and see him struggle in his most vulnerable positions. 1989's Batman and the Dark Knight are often included in the conversation of the best Batman movies, and a large part of this discussion involves the Joker, the mind games, the way they play off of each other, and the built-in history from the fans. There's no denying that when a Batman movie includes the Joker, it's only natural for fan interest to perk up. The Joker brings out the best of Batman, elevating him to some of his toughest battles, both physically and, most important, mentally. With other villains in Batman movies, things don't just feel the same as when he goes up against the Joker. Let's take the most obvious example, Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin. Portrayed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, the villain is goofy, campy, and full of puns about the cold.
The Iceman cometh.
Even with the threat of freezing the whole city of Gotham, the stakes just didn't feel high enough. And adding higher stakes doesn't always mean adding more villains. And this just isn't a Batman problem. Spider-Man 3, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Iron Man 2, and Daredevil all had the issue of presenting way too many villains for the heroes to go up against. Not only does each villain get less time to develop on screen, but our heroes also lose out on screen time as well. The Dark Knight featured Harvey Dent's journey into Two-Face as a second villain, but the character did not take center stage like Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, and Bane did in Batman and Robin. Keeping an even pace between hero and villain allows each of them to shine while giving viewers a Batman to root for. Like Batman, the villains often featured in these movies are pulled straight from the comic books. Staying faithful to comic books has often been a formula for success when it comes to Batman movies. A majority of the films have relied on various comic and origin stories, especially the death of Bruce Wayne's parents. Even when elements are changed, like the Joker being the man responsible for killing the Waynes in 1989's Batman, the effectiveness of these changes all depend on how well the movie is executed, and these elements typically reflect the writing and direction. The director's vision is one of the main factors in creating the perfect Batman. A director has a major task to uphold, dealing with casting, story, props, sets, and the overall tone of the film. Not only does a director have a lot to deal with internally on the production, but externally as well. There's fan opinions, comic books, other versions of Batman, and even other superheroes to compare him to. Tim Burton pretty much got off easy. He had a clean slate to work with. It had been decades since Batman was on the big screen, and Bat fever struck by the time this film was released. Joel Schumacher may have been better off with a restart and fresh beginning, but Batman Forever is the same storyline continuity after the events of Batman Returns. This means he has no Joker to work with, must live up to the hype of the Tim Burton movies, and any change will be criticized in the eye of the original. Basically, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin were almost doomed from the beginning. Of course, this didn't stop the movies from making millions of dollars. However, it did not help the legacy of the films in the long run. But that was in the past. Even now, Tim Burton's Batman films hold up, while Joel Schumacher's are not taken as seriously. It seems like the perfect Batman works well in a more grounded universe and Gotham City. In Batman and Batman Returns, Bruce Wayne must take on a crazed man dressed like a clown and an army of penguins. Sure, the penguins are a little much, but it's not too over the top. Films like The Dark Knight Rises and Batman v Superman feature the whole city of Gotham being taken hostage and the rise of a larger-than-life alien creature known as Doomsday. When Batman has a more grounded and personal struggle, a love interest like Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, or choosing between saving Rachel Dawes or Harvey Dent, the stakes feel more personal, and we can connect with Batman even more. This is also why Batman Forever works more than Batman and Robin did. The Riddler and Two-Face simply want to team up to defeat Batman and find his true identity. In Batman and Robin, Mr. Freeze freezes the whole city of Gotham, taking away a more personal story for Batman to be a part of. We've read the comics, we know the stories. Superman is there to save the world. On his own, Batman is the tortured protector of Gotham City. We're more connected to his emotional journey than his ability to overcome apocalyptic situations. Although we do love a great fight scene during the midst of it all. And just because Batman is grounded and dark doesn't mean he doesn't get the gadgets to boot. While Robin is often considered a main sidekick of the Dark Knight, the Batmobile is an essential part of Batman's history, and always by his side. The character's signature ride is a part of every film he's in, and has become as iconic as the hero. They typically do not go wrong with Batmobile designs, although each one does have its highlights and criticisms. At the end of the day, the Batmobile has never stopped a Batman from being perfect, but many of them have elevated the films they appeared in. The scene in The Dark Knight when Batman transforms the Tumbler into a motorcycle is epic, and one of the best moments in the film. The sleek designs and lighting in the Batman Forever Batmobile was a nice upgrade from Tim Burton's design, which is iconic in its own right. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice mixed the best of both worlds by creating a sleeker and smaller version of the Dark Knight Tumbler, although it may be one of the more unrecognizable designs. The reason the Batman v Superman Batmobile may not stand out as well from the others all has to do with the same problem plaguing any Batman in the future: his past. In an ideal world, the next person Batman portrayal on the big screen would be judged by its own merit, but viewers cannot simply ignore the past. They will be compared to Ben Affleck, Michael Keaton, and Christian Bale among the others. So creating the ideal Dark Knight requires a delicate mix of the past and the future, standing out on its own while honoring the hero of the past. The perfect Batman is not just one thing, and it never will be. Every new Batman to come in the future will feature plenty of scrutiny, analysis, and detail. At the end of the day, George Clooney could even come back to play the perfect Batman, if the story is there, and a nippleless costume is available. The story, the universe, the world of Batman all helps create the iconic hero and present the perfect form on the big screen. So, who's your perfect Dark Knight? Have we seen him yet? What's missing? And what should the future showcase in the world of Batman? Phew. So what's your favorite Batman movie of all time? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to ScreenRant on YouTube so you can stay up to date with our awesome videos. Thanks for watching.